Shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High, YAHAWAH, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, which is to say in the Paleo Hebrew, Yahweh, which is the name of our Heavenly Father, meaning He is, Bahashem, which means in the name, Yahweh Shai, which means He is our salvation. And those are the names of who the world ignorantly calls God, the Heavenly Father, and Jesus, His only begotten Son, who, by the way, only came for the Israelites, all right? Which brings us to our discussion / topic tonight. Judith and holofernes, okay? Judith and holofernes, to the victory, our power, Yahawah, okay? Now, if you're not familiar about the book of Judah, which can be found in the 1611 King James Bible in the Apocrypha, or you can get the Apocrypha by itself, I'm going to give you a brief synopsis on what it entails, okay? Now, let me read this from AI Overview. It says, the story of Judith and Holofernes is a biblical account, they say tale, from the book of Judith, where the beautiful and pious Jewish, which she was a Jew, widow Judith saves her besieged city of Bethulia from the Assyrian general Holofernes by seducing him, all right? Now, she was beautiful in the sense that her beauty allowed her to come close to him in his most vulnerable time, all right? When she was close to his bed chamber near his head, all right? And she took his own sword, or his fashion, which is a short sword, and decapitated his head, all right? Therefore, saving Jerusalem, okay? Now, there's an old saying that I looked up, and it was given to credit for a football coach that says, if you kill the head, the body will fall, okay? And when she did this, the whole Assyrian army was dismantled because they were at all that their great general was decapitated by a woman. So going on with that AI overview, it says, Judith saves her besieged city of Bethulia from the Assyrian general Holofernes by seducing him, getting him drunk, and beheading him in his tent with his own sword. Then displaying his head to send the enemy army fleeing into terror, exemplifying faith, courage, and deliverance from oppression, right? And this is what's going to happen again, all right? This is why in the spirit, this is happening now, okay? Because who is Judith in the spirit? All right, Israel. Does it not say that Israel or the daughters of Zion are delicate and comely? Okay, like a beautiful woman. All right. Now we have the Assyrians, all right, which we know America is classified as many, names throughout the Bible in the spirit, as it tells us in Revelation 11. All right, spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah, spiritual Egypt. You can throw in Nineveh, you can throw in Assyria, all right, so on and so forth. So what's going to happen this time? All right, the same thing that happened during the time of Judith, okay, because as it says in Romans 15:4, everything that was written aforetime was written for our learning, see? And the elect of Israel is going to be likened unto that comely lady, okay? Because you can say that we're seducing this system because we're getting our daily bread as it was foretold to us in prophecy that we would eat our bread defiled amongst the Gentiles and also give us this day our daily bread, see? But there's going to come a time that guess what? In order for you to receive your daily bread, you're going to have to do what? Get the mark of the beast. But prior leading up into that time, they're probably going to give you, incentives or, rewards or so on and so forth. Now, are we going to turn that down? No, because it isn't the actual mark, which is the charagma. So we're going to use this system all the way up until we can no longer use it no more, when they make forth the mark mandatory. Then at that point, it's all bets are off, okay? But leading up until that point, Esau, Edom could have the notion to believe that we're going to take it, okay? Because you got to remember, they're monitoring us, our every movements, all right? From our videos that we put up to where we go, because why? We have these smartphones. They're pretty much tracking devices, okay? So they're going to see our bank accounts, whether or not we take this, you see? They're going to see whether or not we receive, if they come forth with a UBI, Universal Basic Income. So this is all trying to get us to acquiesce or to get us prepared for when they come with the actual mark, which is the RFID microchip. But at that time, when they come with it, as it says in Matthew 24 and verse 24, there shall arise false anointeds, false Christs, that if it was possible, they would fool the very elect. See, but the elect are not going to receive that mark, okay? We're just going to use this system all the way up until that moment. And then once that moment comes, Lord willing, if we of that number, we won't receive the mark, okay? But leading up until that, they can give us whatever they want, all right? Because why? We got to get our daily bread, okay? We got to, as it says in the book of Corinthians, use this system, but not abuse it, see? When it comes down to when they actually make this mark mandatory, then all bets are off, okay? So in the spirit, we're seeing this unfold, okay? This Judith and holofernes dynamic, okay? Where holofernes invited Judith back to his bed chambers thinking that he might get something because Judith was a beautiful woman, okay? Little did he know the Lord had another plan for him, okay? He was going to use this woman to who? To what? Dismantle him, to decapitate him, all right? Just like he's going to use the elect of our people to take down this system, which he's already doing, all right, through the power of YAHAWAH Bahashim Yahweh Shai, all right, through this truth. We're exposing him. This is why this devil's now trying to come up with all type of, devices and misdirections, okay? The latest direction is these individuals that go by the name of Judith coming up with the book accredited to Abba Bivens, using the book, I believe the title is Marks of a Lost Race, and saying that in the passage of that book, particularly the one that goes into Romans 10 and 9, that the writing or the author of the book, which they accredited to Abba Bivens, is saying that Romans 10 and 9 is speaking of the natural born Gentiles and not the Israelite Gentiles, see? Which there can be no, what's the word I'm looking for? There can be no substantiating evidence that Abba Bivens wrote that. And furthermore, why is that book resurfacing now in the time of the Great Awakening, okay? See, it all starting to come together that you got certain Israelites that have sold out and took the bag, all right? To do what? To mislead the Israelites that's waking up to this truth, all right? Because they wouldn't, what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't elect or chosen to receive the truth, okay? So they're going to believe whatever lies that this devil uses through these other, so-called Israelite leaders to perpetuate, all right? So that book, it can't be substantiated or not if Abba Bivens written that, all right? And furthermore, the apostle Tahar said that the priest Ariyah never taught that, okay? So we understand this device, these wiles of the devil, okay? He's coming with it because why? He's in his last run, all right? He's trying to get as many Israelites as he can, but he's not going to get the elect, that comely woman, all right? Judith, all right? In fact, he's going to be beheaded by that beauty, okay? See? The elect is going to wake up as they already are, and they're going to endure. That's what makes them the elect. All right. In doing so, they're going to decapitate this system. represented by who? Holofernes, the general, all right? Because Babylon the Great, the United States of America, will be the last heathen nation to ever rule. And as was stated earlier, you kill the head, the body will fall, all right? Once these other heathen nations see Babylon the Great, America, Holofernes fall, his head decapitated, it ain't gonna be too much more resistance after that, all right? Once YAHAWAH come back and take this system down, there's not gonna be too much more resistance after that. That's why you're not gonna have any uprisings in the kingdom, all right? When the Lord sends his only begotten son, YAHAWAH, to get busy and decapitate this system, this Edomite wicked rulership, and exert his force, his power, there ain't gonna be no uprising in the kingdom, man. Are you serious? Okay. It's not going to be no resistance because they're going to see the power of Yahweh through his only begotten son, YAHAWAH. So it goes on to say, then displaying his head to send the enemy army fleeing in terror, exemplifying faith, courage, and deliverance from oppression. Right. So as the name of the lesson is, Judith and holofernes, to the victory, our power, Yahweh. Right. So we're going to get the power, we're going to get the victory through our power, Yahweh, through his only begotten son, YAHAWAH. So let's open up the book of Judith, chapter 13, and let's start at verse 5. It says, for now is the time to help thy inheritance, right, which is the Israelites, and to execute thy enterprises to the destruction of the enemies which are risen against us. Judah 13 and verse 6. Then she came to the pillar of the bed which was at Holofernes' head, and took down his falchion, which is a short broaded sword, from thence, and approached to his head, or Salaki, to his bed, and took hold of the hair of his head. So at this point, Holofernes was inebriated, all right? He was drunk, all right, because he was believing that he was going to invite Judith back to his bed chambers and get him a little something. Oh, so that was his initial plan, or that's how he thought it would be, because in the banquet, he asked Judith to, drink and whatnot, all right? And then he, if I'm not mistaken, invited her back to her bed, to his bed chambers, and Judith told her maid to stand outside the door. It says, verse 7, and approached to his bed, and took hold of the hair of his head, and said, strengthen me, O Lord, power of Israel, this day. So she understood the task at hand, and in that moment, she asked the Lord to strengthen her. Why? Because she was a woman, all right, and she wanted to get the job done, all right? Just like we are likened to what? In the book of Isaiah, it says, Jacob, thy worm. All right, we're liking it to a worm with no strength. So we pray to the Lord daily, all right, through his only begotten son, YAHAWAH, to strengthen us. And there's going to come a time where this is going to play out in the physical, but right now it's spiritual. And we're waiting on the Lord for that moment, all right, because as it says in Isaiah 59 and verse 19, when the enemy should come in like the flood, the Spirit shall lift up a standard. See? And the Lord lift up the Spirit within Judith to get this job done, and she executed it, as we're going to read. So it says, verse 8. Let me go back up to verse 7. Judah 13 and 7. And approached to his bed, and took hold of his hair, and said, strengthen me, O Lord, power of Israel, this day. Judah 13 and verse 8. And she smote twice upon his neck with all her might, and she took away his head from him. So in 2 swipes, she decapitated Holofernes' head, all right, a woman, all right? But why? The Lord was blessing her with the strength to achieve this accomplishment, just like he's going to do with the elect of Israel, which is likened unto a comely woman. Lord willing, we're going to get that. It says, verse 8, and she smote twice upon his neck with all her might, and she took away his head from him. Verse 9, Judith 13:9. And tumbled his body down from the bed and pulled down the canopy from the pillars. And Anan, after she went forth, and gave Holofernes his head to her maid, and she put it in her bag of meat. So they twain went together according to their custom unto prayer. And when she passed the camp, they compassed the valley and went up the mountain of Bethulia and came to the gates thereof. So she came to the gates of the camp. Then said Judith afar off to the watchman at the gate, Open, open now the gate. The Most High God, even our power, is with us, to show his power yet in Jerusalem and his forces against the enemy, as he have even done this day. Now when the men of her city heard her voice, they made haste to go down to the gate of their city, and they called the elders of the city. Judith 13 and verse 13 now. And then they ran all together, both small and great, for it was strange unto them that she was come. So they opened the gate and received them, and made a fire for a light, and stood round about. 14. Then she said to them with a loud voice, Praise, praise the Most High. Till the victory goes to our power, YAHAWAH. And it reads, verse 14, then she said to them with a loud voice, Praise, praise the Most High, praise the Most High. I say, for he have not taken away his mercy from the house of Israel. See? And he still has that same mercy today with the elect of Israel, all right? Which is why the elect will not be destroyed, okay? Now, 2/3 of our people, they will be, all right? They will be destroyed here in Babylon the Great, all right? Which is the United States of America. It says, but have destroyed our enemies by my hands this night, right? A woman, all right? That delicate, comely woman. It says, where we at? But have destroyed our enemies, verse 14, the end of that verse, but have destroyed our enemies by my hands this night. Verse 15, Judith 13 and 15. So she took the head out of the bag and showed it and said unto them, Behold, the head of Holofernes. So she took the head out and showed them. The chief captain of the army of Assur. And behold, the canopy wherein he did lie in his drunkenness. See? And the Lord has poured out a perverse spirit on Babylon and has made this place drunken. Okay? Matter of fact, let's go there. Okay? This is the book of Isaiah, because you can see the similarities. Okay? We're going to get the comely woman and the drunken. Okay? This is Isaiah. Let me see. Isaiah. Give me 1 second. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter, is it 19, is it? Bear with me. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 19 and verse 14. It reads, YAHAWAH have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. See? So eventually, this whole place is going to be destroyed, all right? Because why? The Lord is going to put a perverse spirit on this place to make it drunk and stumble in all his works. Now, here it is. We just had a blackout that took place in San Francisco today, where 1/3 of the city was in complete blackness. Now, I'm not sure if everything is up and running, but that's soon going to be the whole, narrative for all of America when this whole place goes out in darkness. All right. So the Lord is dealing with, things in the spirit. All right. And we're seeing things come to pass, in the spirit. All right. You got to have a spiritual eye to see these things. Okay. So we see how holofernes was drunken, and was taken by the beauty of Judith. And that in itself was the downfall, because why? He couldn't see it coming. All right. Just like these Babylonians not going to see it coming, just like Egypt isn't going to see it coming. When they see YAHAWAH show up, that's going to be the end of it. All right. Now let's go over here to Judith. Oh, let's go to let's go to the book of, what is this? Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 2. It reads, I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. See? So we're likening it to what? A comely and delicate woman. All right. You don't think nothing of it. A beautiful woman, you don't think she's going to be any kind of threat. All right. But it's in that very essence that you let your guard down, and next thing you know, you no longer have a head. Okay. And what did the Lord say? In Jeremiah 51, he said, I will make you my battle axe. Okay. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51 and verse 20. Let's read that. Jeremiah 51 and verse 20. Okay. Because the Lord is going to use men to play out his, judgment amongst other, wicked people. Okay. But we have to wait for that time. We can't come out here and do things on our own. See, that's what these men and people of the world want. They want they want a revolution. All right. Now we waiting on the Lord, as it tells us in Zephaniah 3 and 8. All right. We're not making moves on our own. That's why it says in Matthew 10 and 16, be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. This is not the time nor the place to do things on your own. We have to wait, as it says, tarry in Jerusalem, roughly paraphrased in the book of Luke, until you be endowed with power. See, what did Judith do? She prayed to the Lord that he would give her the strength, and he did give her the strength. So we're praying to the Lord that we get the strength, and when that time arises, we'll be prepared. All right, but we don't move before then. Okay, we stay put. All right, waiting for that moment, waiting for that time. So this is the book of, what was it? Jeremiah 6 and 2. Did we read that? Yes, I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. See? So we're waiting on that time. Now we read Jeremiah 51 and 20. It says what? Let's read that. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51 and verse 20. It says Jeremiah 51 and 20, thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. See? But we haven't been charged, or we haven't been, given the spirit to bring forth this prophecy yet. All right. Right now, we're prophesying in the spirit. But soon the Lord is going to lift up a standard, and we're going to actually have these spiritual powers that we read about. All right. So the same power that the Lord embarked and bestowed upon Judith to chop or decapitate Holofernes' head with 2 swipes, he's going to give the man of the Lord, all right, the ability to act out judgment upon the earth. Okay. It says, thou art my battle axe and weapons of war, for with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. See? But now it's not the time. See, we have to wait. As it says in Zephaniah 3, it says what? Let's read this. See, it's all about patience and waiting and having faith. This is Zephaniah 3 and 8. It says, therefore wait. See, that's the key. Wait ye upon me, saith YAHAWAH, until the day that I rise up to the prey. See, Judith had to wait on the Lord. And when that moment arose, what did she do? She prayed that YAHAWAH would strengthen her to execute the judgment, which was what? To decapitate holofernes head within 2 swipes or smites. So it says Zephaniah 3 and 8, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them my indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy, right? Which is going to be what? Those missiles and chariots, okay? But we have to wait and be patient. We can't rush things and try to go out and do things on our own, because that's when things go awry or they go wrong. They take a left field. When you try to hurry up prophecy, okay? We just got to stay cool, calm, and collective, all right? And when that time arises, we'll be prepared, all right? Now, this place is already going to hell in a handbasket, all right? It's already pretty much drunk as it is, okay? We're going to see shortly in a little bit, you know, Egypt against Egypt, all right? Babylon against Babylon, all right? These people are going to eventually start to turn on themselves when things are taken, when outages are occurring more frequently, when there's no sense of security. This place is going to implode on itself, okay? And we got to be prepared for this, all right? This is why we in the spirit. This is why we are continuing to what? Seek the Lord while he may be found, okay? So it says, even all my fierce anger for all the earth shall be devoured with fire of my jealousy, all right? So back to Judith, where we at? Judith 13, in verse 15, it reads, so she took the head out of the bag and showed it, and said unto them, behold, the head of Holofernes, the chief captain of the army of Assur. See? And when America is finally taken down, it's going to be a memorial, okay? There will be no other inhabitants other than desert creatures that will be here. All right, this place is going to be used for a memorial for what happens when you come up against the Lord. All right, this place won't be built back as other places will be, particularly our homeland. All right, because that place is going to be destroyed as well through World War III. But guess what? Unlike America, it will be built back up through what? The other heathen nations. All right. It says, verse 15, so she took the head out of the bag and showed it and said unto them, behold, the head of Holofernes, the chief captain of the army of Assur, and behold, the canopy wherein he did lie in his drunkenness. See? And America, as we read in Isaiah 19 and 14, is in that drunkenness, that stupor. All right? They just haven't seen the full effects of it yet. All right? But it's getting ready to come to pass, Lord willing. We can feel it on the verge. All right? We can feel America is one good incident away of just completely making a complete mockery out of itself. All right? Where the people are going to be up against where its own people are going to be up against themselves, where everything is going to fail, because we see now jobs aren't really like they say it is, because of why? The advent of AI. You see, they're trying to put it together, or they're trying to hold it together with a piece of duct tape and some glue, you know, by saying inflation is down below 3%, eggs are down at the supermarket, gas prices are down under the current administration. All that shit could mean less. All right. The people feel the pressure of not having enough money to have somewhere to stay, to pay their rent. See, and then this is when they're going to come with that UBI. All right. This is when they're going to come when, hey, we're going to use this system. We're going to use this system, but not abuse it. All right. Because we know ultimately that it's going to come a time where they're going to say, in order for you to receive these benefits that we done propped you up with, now you have to take the mark of the beast, the charagma, all right, in order for you to get your Medicare, all right, because it's a reason why this guy hasn't done what he can do to find a new solution for the Affordable Care Act, all right. He's telling you that what? Oh, we're going to give the money back to the people and let them choose their own insurance, okay? That's to keep you what? Dumbed down, okay? They keep you from going into a frenzy, all right? Because if you knew you wasn't going to get Affordable Care Act or any type of insurance for a while, you would be in an uproar right now. But now it's not the time for that to happen. So he's trying to placate to you and say all type of things are sweet, whisper sweet, nothing's in your ear. Let's give the people back the money and let them decide which insurance they want. Have the insurance companies fighting for them. All right. It's all part of a strategic plot or plan, man. All right. Why are they worrying about still pocketing or putting money in these insurance pockets for? All right. Why not try to get you with the information to live a more healthier life? Because they are all in cahoots. All right. Insurance, government, everything. They don't have your best interest at heart. All right. Because what did we do before these insurance companies, before Big Pharma? All right. We healed our own selves with good old ingenuity. We would go out, plant a garden in the back, eat our own food, so on and so forth. All right. Grandma have a garden of greens back there, cabbage, you name it. Okay. We wouldn't having to worry about the grocery store. All right. But as time went on, they took that form of independence from us and did what? Had us rely on the system. Okay. You can have chickens, but you can't have a male and a female chicken, a rooster and a hen. See? This damn system was never set up for you to be on top. All right. Because they knew if you had a male and a rooster and a hen, you could pretty much sustain yourself off of that. The meat, the eggs, and so on and so forth. All right. But see, that's not part of the agenda. All right. That's why they put these laws into effect. You can't have a rooster and a hen. All right. Everything is just to give you the illusion. So now all of a sudden they give you the illusion, or Trump is trying to say that these insurance companies need to be competing for your money. Now, how about we get rid of them and you go back to, man, forget it, because this place is through anyways. All right. So no need to try to prolong the inevitable. All right. Just let this place come crawling down. So it says Judith 13 and 15. So she took the head out of the bag and showed it and said unto them, behold, the head of Holofernes, the chief captain of the army of Assur. And behold, the canopy wherein he did lie in his drunkenness, right? And as we stated earlier, America is in the midst of that drunkenness. And when this place is destroyed, it's going to be as if it never existed. It's going to be for a memorial, actually. It says, and the Lord have smitten him by the hand of a woman, right? And in the spirit, that woman is going to be represented by the elect this time, all right? And we, Lord willing, will take part of that, all right? When YAHAWAH comes back, okay? We're going to be what? Changing the twinkling of an eye. It says in Jeremiah 16, I will send forth many fishers and then hunters. I believe that's Jeremiah 16 and 16. It says, and the Lord have smitten him by the hand of a woman, right? And no one thinks of a woman of being able to do such that, especially a beautiful, delicate, comely woman, all right? Which is why these other nations, they're not going to believe it when they see it. They're going to be like, what? They the Israelites? You mean those 1948ers over there ain't the real people? No, they never were. We told you that. All right. Now you may have a small portion that are, but as for the main narrative that they telling you, it's a bunch of baloney. It's a whole bunch of hogwash. It's nothing but a lie. All right. The true biblical Israelites are so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. And then you have the speckled birds, those that look like the other nations, but through the patrilineal lineage go back to the Hebrew Israelites. Okay. It says, verse 16, Judith 13 and 16, as the Lord liveth, who have kept me in my way that I went, my countenance have deceived him to his destruction. See, he wasn't thinking of someone to be so beautiful, to have such a, strategic mind. Okay. Just like these people don't think that we could be the Israelites. They don't even consider that. All right. They look at us like we just a bunch of, so-called black Latinos, Native Americans. All right. And that we just out here, putting on a cosplay or something that they don't see the spiritual meaning behind. All right. But when it comes to pass, and it will come to pass, they're going to know that a prophet has been amongst them. All right. And they're going to recognize. All right. But that shouldn't deter you. That shouldn't deter you from doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that's enduring. All right. Being patient. So it says, verse 16, as the Lord liveth, who have kept me in my way that I went, my countenance have deceived him to his destruction. And yet have he not committed sin with me to defile and shame. You see? So, hey, just like he didn't commit sin to defile and shame Judith, this current wicked ruler, Esau, Edom, pursuant to Job 9 and 24, is not going to defile or sin or shame the comely and delicate, beautiful woman known as the elect, because we're not going to take that charagma. All right. They could believe all the way up until the last minute that we're going to take it. They could give us all these, incentives and give us all this money, but we're going to use it. All right. And then when it comes down to when they say, okay, in order for you to receive everything that you got, now you have to take this charagma or this RFID microchip. And then that's when, hey, the Lord going to give us that strength. All right. He going to give us that strength as he gave Judith. All right. And we ain't going to need the system no more. We're going to detach from it. Okay. And they're going to have so-called super soldiers come after us and so on and so forth. And that's when we're going to be used as that battle axe. Okay. That's when we're going to be used and get charged with that spiritual power. Isaiah 59 and verse 19. All right. So it says, verse 17, then all the people were wonderfully astonished and bowed themselves and worshiped the Most High and said with one word, blessed be thou, O power, which has this day brought to naught the enemies of thy people. See? And that's what we waiting on. Okay. We waiting on the Lord to show up and to take these other people, these other nations, the enemies of Israel, into captivity, into slavery. All right. And that's what's coming. Okay. That's what's coming. So Judith and Holofernes to the victory, our power, YAHAWAH. Okay. Now I believe that was it. So we're going to finish up and close out with 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. It reads, be sober, be vigilant. See, this is something that only the elect will actually be able to execute, is to have a sober mind and to be vigilant and to watch, okay? And not be distracted by the ways of this world, okay? Because that's a very likely possibility that a lot of people fall back into the ways of this world because they're distracted. They're not watching for prophecy, okay? We're watching. We're being vigilant, okay? We're being sober because we understand that what? It says, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour, right? He wants you to come into the bedchamber, all right? He wants you to believe that, get a few drinks, and then he wants to defile you with sin. He wants to put that charagma inside of you, all right? That's his ultimate move, is to get you drunk, with his different philosophies and ideologies, so on and so forth, and then invite you back into the bedchamber. What what happens or goes down in the bedchamber, all right? He want to put some inside you, okay? So that's the dance, okay? He's getting you good and liquored up, by giving you all these freebies, these incentives. As it says, victuals shall be so cheap upon earth that they should think to themselves to be in good time. And then death, sorrow, roughly paraphrasing, all right? Because that's his move. He's going to get you liquored up and try to get you drunk alongside with him, get you back into the bedroom where things go down, and he's going to have you come into these detention centers, these reclassification camps, get you re-educated, and then what? Give you the option to either take the mark of the beast or to be beheaded. See? And as it says in Revelation 20:4, some of us will be beheaded for the testimony of YAHAWAH, because why? We didn't take the mark of the beast, okay? So we have to be very mindful and sober of the fact, okay, that this devil isn't playing by the same rules, okay? He's playing to keep, all right? And if you take that charagma, that RFID microchip, you belong to him. It's just that simple, all right? The Lord can do nothing else with you. You see? So it says, 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, one that opposes the will of the Heavenly Father, because your adversary, the devil, the deceiver, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. See? Come back to the bedroom. Come back to the bedchamber. Okay? Get drunk with me. See? That's why it tells us to be sober. Not to get inebriated. Okay? Not to, get comfortable with this system. Because that's in all likeness going to be your downfall. If you don't understand that this is not your rest. Micah 2:10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. All right? It says what? Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. It is polluted, and it will destroy you with a sore destruction. See? You take that charagma, that chip, that's it. You're going to be destroyed right along with this place. All right? So we have to be sober, and we have to be vigilant. Okay? And we got to pray, man, because, hey, as it says in Isaiah, Jacob thy worm, man, we got no defense until the Lord, lifts us up with that standard, that spirit. All right. But until then, we are as a worm with no defense. Okay. Anybody can pretty much take us out. All right. This is why we fear the Lord. Okay. This is why we fear the Lord. We don't fear man that can only kill the body. We fear him that can kill what? The body and soul in hell. All right. So that's going to conclude the lesson. And with that being said, pray someone was edified through this lesson. And until the next time, if it be the Lord's will, stay strong, stay in the faith. We're almost home. Shalom. Peace.